Anauroch, the great sand sea, once a bastion of the ancient Netherese, now only ruins, dunes, and wastes remain. The storm breaks with a deafening crack, and the sky is painted in jagged streaks of blinding blue. The ancient Netherese city's walls, once proud and unyielding, now bear the scars of battle. Now a bastion of the Zentarim, a rich prize, and one gleaming bright in the great sand sea. A blast strikes the gate, storm given form, lightning given form, wood and stone disintegrating, banners torn, the scent of ozone thick in the air. The Zentarim, used to operating in the shadows, now brought to light. They scramble to form ranks, their shields reflecting the eerie glow of unnatural lightning. Their spears tremble, and the battle begins. The gate, an attached wall, explodes in a cascade of shattered wood and stone, the impact throwing the defenders from their posts. The ancient fortress yielding to the storm. From the breach they come, rank upon rank of warriors, clad in steel and flowing desert robes, surging forward like the unstoppable tide of the dunes. At their head, figures in crackling blue armor, emblazoned with a draconic emblem. Their eyes are light with zealous purpose, but all pale in comparison to the force that comes. A tempest looms above them, wings outstretched like a thundercloud given form. The eye of the storm. The antediluvian walls groan under its weight as it perches upon the remnants of a collapsed tower, its massive talons grinding ancient stone to dust. Its scales glisten, reflecting each bolt of lightning that dances across its form, power coursing through every inch of its massive frame. Its maw opens, revealing fangs like swords, and from deep within, a deafening roar echoes through the city, shaking foundations, rattling bones. This is no beast. This is the storm made flesh, the executioner of arrogance, the ruler of the wastes. Below, the Zentarim prepare their final defense. Silver ballistae turn skyward. Contemptible spellcasters raise their hands to conjure a riposte. Bolts of force and barriers of shimmering force arise in equal measure. The Sapphire One only watches, its gaze filled with something beyond destruction, contempt. It knows how this will end. The storm has already claimed this city. It simply hasn't finished breaking it yet. A final, world-shaking clap of thunder rolls through the heavens. The dragon rears back, lightning coiling around its horns. And then, with the force of the tempest itself, it exhales. A lance of pure lightning crashes down, annihilating all in its path. The conquest has begun. Before kingdoms, before even the gods laid claim to the heavens, in the beginning, there was I-O, the first dragon. He who forged all dragonkind from the raw elements of creation. But when he fell, his children warred amongst themselves. In the age when the cosmos was yet young, and the clash between gods and primordials raged across creation, a being of unfathomable destruction emerged, the King of Terror. With power enough to destroy existence itself, this primordial force turned its wrath upon I-O, the first dragon, the divine progenitor of dragonkind. In a cataclysmic battle that shook the very foundations of reality, I-O stood alongside his children, defiant against the oncoming annihilation. Yet even the might of the Dragonfather could not withstand the raw chaos of the King of Terror. With a single, devastating strike, the Father was sundered, his divine essence scattering like embers upon the wind. From the remnants of his broken form, legend tells of a miraculous rebirth. Some say that from his two halves arose the great dragon gods, Bahamut, the platinum dragon, radiant in his justice, and Tiamat, the chromatic tyrant, seething with insatiable ambition. Others claim that these two deities had long existed, firstborn of creation, and that upon his death, they inherited the last remnants of his divine spark. Regardless of the truth, one thing is certain. His death did not mark the end of dragonkind, but the beginning of an eternal struggle. From that moment on, the dragons of the world would be divided, their destinies forever entwined in a battle between tyranny and justice, destruction and order. One remainder of Io's surviving dragon children threw in their lot with Tiamat, whose hatred of the world that killed her father colored her every deed and attracted dragons given to rapacity and suspicion, the chromatics. Today, as the evil deity of wealth, greed, and envy, she urges her followers to take vengeance for every slight. Most chromatic dragons follow this dictate. Thus, in the current era, the blue dragons crave power, subjugation, and a will to dominate. They seek to transform and create empires, domains to be feared by nations and the multiverse. Among the chromatic dragons, none wield intellect and ambition with the precision of the blue dragon. Cunning and imperious, they are not beasts of carnage, but sovereigns of the wastes, lords of the shifting sands, who shape the fate of all within their dominion. To them, rulership is not just a privilege, it is a birthright. There is no creature more arrogant than a blue dragon, nor one more willing to enforce its supremacy. To question its rule is to invite swift retribution, for no slight is forgotten, no challenge unanswered. They do not rage blindly as their red kin do, nor do they waste words like the silver weaklings of the north. Instead, they command, they dictate, and they expect obedience. Soaring high above the scorched dunes and sun-baked mesas, these dragons watch with calculating eyes, their wings casting ominous shadows upon the lands they claim as their own. The winds of the desert carry the distant crackle of electricity, a warning to all who would dare trespass. From the parched steppes to the jagged coasts, where storm-torn waves clash against rock, blue dragons reign unchallenged, guarding their realms with zealous vigilance. Even the audacious brass dragons, their hated rivals, dare not test their wrath without consequence. Unlike their crimson kin, whose fury burns uncontrolled, or their emerald counterparts, who revel in deception, the blue dragon tempers its brutality with foresight. Power is not solely the strength to destroy, but the wisdom to command. And so, they gather followers as others hoard gold, forging networks of vassals and agents, ensuring that their reach extends far beyond the horizon. Yet beneath their iron rule lies a mind sharpened by years of intrigue. From the moment they hatch, blue dragons are creatures of intellect. They delight in contests of wit, savoring the sting of a well-matched opponent almost as much as the taste of charred flesh. They are not born with the gift of telepathy, yet the power of the mind fascinates them, and they seek its mastery through cunning, study, and command. Lightning is their weapon, but knowledge is their arsenal. A blue dragon is a living tempest, its form sculpted by the raw fury of the skies. Its body is an elegant balance of brutal strength and aerodynamic grace, a predator honed by nature to rule the heavens. Its scales shimmer with an electric luster, shifting between polished cobalt and deep indigo, reflecting the relentless sun above the desert. With age, their brilliance only intensifies, becoming harder than steel and humming with barely contained energy. In moments of anger, when the storm within them rages, lightning crackles across their form, and the very air hums with impending wrath. Their heads are crowned with a singular jagged horn, a living lightning rod that channels the raw power of the storm. It juts forth from their skulls in twin points, the foremost curved like a blade poised to strike, the second smaller yet no less menacing. A cascade of backward jutting spikes runs from their nostrils to the crest of their brow, continuing along their pronounced jawline. Their eyes, glowing with the brilliance of a brewing storm, pierce the bravado of any who dare meet their gaze. Their wings, vast and bat-like, spread wide to catch the thermal updrafts of the desert, allowing them to soar with effortless dominion. Their wing joints are thick, their membranes dappled with patterns that shift beneath the desert's sun. A blue dragon does not fly to flee. It flies to survey, to control, to remind the world below of its place beneath the storm. Though carnivorous by nature, a blue dragon hunts with precision, selecting its prey with intent. Herd animals, charred to perfection by a single breath, provide ample sustenance. Yet no meal is as satisfying as the spoils of conquest, the plundered wealth of caravans, the shattered wills of would-be rebels, the tribute of those wise enough to submit rather than perish. And for those who seek favor rather than ruin, the blue dragon offers a rare and selective mercy. It covets more than gold, it covets talent, influence, and loyalty. Bards who weave grand tales of its power, scholars who gather secrets in its name, assassins who silence dissenting voices, all are welcome in its court. To serve a blue dragon is to live beneath the shadow of greatness. Order is paramount in the world of blue dragons, but it is an order of their own design. Their society is one of dominion, a web of authority where the strongest rule and the lesser submit. At the pinnacle of this structure sits the oldest dragon in the region, the suzerain, the undisputed lord to whom all others pay homage. Under their watchful gaze, disputes are settled, territory divided, and challenges weighed. Those who wish to rise may do so, but only if they can unseat their ruler in a contest of might and cunning. Even among these tyrants, there is ritual, there is formality. Courtship among blue dragons is an affair of elaborate exchanges, gifts of treasure, declarations of intent, the blessing of the reigning suzerain. Older dragons, seasoned by the passage of centuries, may claim multiple mates, but infidelity is an affront to their nature. They are rulers, not deceivers. Their bonds are forged not from fleeting passion, but from a shared recognition of power and purpose. To their young, they are neither cruel nor coddling, but vigilant. A blue dragon does not leave its offspring unattended, nor does it suffer weakness in its bloodline. They are raised with the same expectation that governs all of their kind: to rule, to conquer, to endure. They seek lairs near sites of symbolic power, such as the abandoned fortresses of giants, the colossi of fallen empires, or monuments raised by their followers. To locate one is to seek ruin, for the very land conspires against intruders, shaped by the will of the dragon that calls it home. A blue dragon sculpts the lair, shaping the stone and sand with its crackling breath, forging vast crystalline tunnels and chambers of shimmering glass. Every inch of these subterranean citadels is designed with ruthless efficiency, from narrow, twisting corridors that funnel invaders into kill zones to the unstable passageways that can be collapsed at a moment's notice. A dragon that finds its sanctuary threatened does not defend like a cornered beast. It destroys its own lair, bringing down the stone and sand upon those who dare trespass, only to return later and reclaim its treasures from the broken bodies of the intruders. The power of a blue dragon is such that its very presence alters the land around its domain. Raging tempests coil around these hidden citadels, filling the air with the ceaseless rumble of thunder and the acrid scent of ozone. Lightning lances through the sky in erratic, searing bursts, and the sands themselves betray the unworthy. Dust storms rise without warning, sinkholes swallow the unwary, and the very earth shifts underfoot, obscuring the paths that once led to the dragon's keep. Yet the blue dragon does not rely on the land alone. Even its most trusted vassals rarely glimpse the depths of its lair, for secrecy is its greatest defense. Instead, the dragon allows the creatures of the desert, ankegs, giant scorpions, and other predators to prowl its borders, ignorant guardians ensuring that only the boldest or most foolish ever come close. In time, some of the eldest of their kind attract even more powerful servitors, air elementals, bound by unseen oaths, moving as silent sentinels through the tunnels of their masters. The dragon's hoard is no random collection of wealth, but a reflection of its ego and legacy. Unlike their red kin, who amass gold in great, glittering mountains, blue dragons seek refinement and rarity, considering blue to be the most noble and beautiful of colors. The covert sapphires, favoring jewelry and magic items adorned with those gems. These are followed closely by artifacts of rulership, crowns of fallen kings, scepters that once commanded legions, relics of dynasties long since crumbled to dust. A blue dragon does not covet for wealth alone, but for the proof of its superiority, the tangible remnants of those who thought themselves mighty, now reduced to trinkets in its collection. Yet, even among these treasures, deception reigns. For every artifact buried deep within the sanctum, another lies in plain sight. A gleaming jewel resting atop a dune, an ornate blade half buried in the sand. But these are not gifts for would-be thieves. They are bait, lures to draw the greedy into the dragon's carefully laid traps. Beneath them lie the treacherous sinkholes and shifting sands, waiting to consume those who dare steal from a tyrant of the storm. A blue dragon's home is as much a statement as it is a sanctuary. It does not seek the solitude of the high mountains, nor the chaotic depths of the abyssal swamps. Instead, it commands the wasteland itself, shaping the dunes, the skies, and the storms into its own imperium. The path of a blue dragon is one of calculated ascension, each stage of its life marked by the relentless pursuit of dominion. From the moment it hatches beneath the scorching desert sun, its destiny is not to wander, but to rule. Unlike the mindless devastation of its crimson kin, or the aimless wanderings of lesser chromatics, a blue dragon's purpose is singular: to carve an empire from the bones of the weak, to shape the storm, and to command the forces of the world itself. To chronicle the life of a blue dragon is to witness the rise of a storm, from the first static crackle in the air to the full force of an empire-shattering tempest. It is a saga of conquest, one that stretches across centuries, and in some cases, across worlds. From the moment they emerge, blue dragon wormlings are creatures of ambition. Their eggs, carefully buried beneath the desert sands, lie dormant for 7 months, warmed by the relentless sun until the day the sky itself heralds their arrival. A final surge of lightning courses through the shell, shattering it as the infant dragon releases its first breath, one charged not with fire or frost, but with the raw power of the storm. Though small compared to the giants they will one day become, wormlings lack neither cunning nor cruelty. They quickly learn that power is not merely strength, but control. Many seek the patronage of greater beings, powerful warlords, monstrous tyrants, even elder dragons to learn the ways of command. But their servitude is never permanent. A blue dragon bends the knee only to study how the throne is claimed. And when the time comes, it betrays or abandons its benefactor, proving its worth by carving out its own domain. Even at this young stage, they gather followers, small creatures eager for power, desperate enough to kneel before a being whose ambitions already eclipse their understanding. These wormlings, still mastering their claws and their wings, test the limits of their lightning breath upon the hapless, learning how to break the will of those beneath them. Their minds are as sharp as their talons, for even in youth, they understand one truth above all: to rule is to shape the world in their image. As they approach their first century, young blue dragons cast off their roles as aspirants and instead claim their first true dominions. Some carve their thrones from isolated settlements, reducing weak-willed inhabitants to subjects. Others take refuge in the ruins of forgotten civilizations, seeking arcane relics and lost knowledge to further their ascent. If they must, they will form uneasy alliances with other powerful beings, but always with the understanding that such arrangements are temporary. Alliances exist only until they are no longer useful. By this stage, a blue dragon has begun to master its natural gifts. The sands are no longer an obstacle, but a weapon. They strike from the sky, vanishing into the searing heat, then rising from beneath the dunes in a cascade of sand and fury. Their lightning breath, once erratic, now flows with precision, sculpting not only the caverns of their lairs, but also the battlefield itself. These dragons begin the process of selecting a permanent home, scouting vast underground caverns or abandoned fortresses from which to build their power. Here, they do not only exist, they rule. They weave their first great networks of influence, gathering spies, enforcers, and subjugated vassals. What was once ambition now begins to resemble a kingdom. With the passing of centuries, the young aspirants of the desert become true rulers of their domains. No longer content with ruling isolated pockets of power, they expand their reach into the wider world, establishing vast networks of control. These may take the form of subjugated cities, shadowy organizations that extend their influence, or even hidden cults that spread their name as divine beings. Suspicion and paranoia become second nature at this stage, for a ruler does not remain in power without vigilance. Adult blue dragons are masters of deception and treachery, setting elaborate traps for rivals and testing the loyalty of their own followers with impossible tasks. Betrayal is anticipated and always answered with calculated cruelty. At this age, their power is undeniable. They no longer singly breathe lightning, they command it. Storms do not form naturally in their presence, they gather at their will. They harness the currents of the air to vanish in the blink of an eye, striking from unexpected angles. Those who believe they can strike a blue dragon unprepared quickly learn that it is they who have been maneuvered into a trap. It is at this stage that their mastery of magic begins to take shape. They develop the ability to scry upon both their enemies and their allies, piercing through lies and deceptions as easily as they tear through armies. Invisibility is no longer a simple trick, but an extension of their form, allowing them to disappear into the shifting sands or even the sky itself, striking from nowhere before vanishing once more. They are no longer warlords of the desert. They are elemental tyrants, wielding the storm as both a weapon and a symbol of their absolute dominance. By the time a blue dragon reaches the final stage of its existence, it ceases to concern itself with petty mortal struggles. The dominion over short-lived creatures has long since become tiresome. Now, it turns its gaze towards something greater, the conquest of dragons, of empires, of the very forces of reality itself. Some seek to subjugate their own kind, establishing themselves as the undisputed sovereigns of all dragonkind. Others stretch their ambitions beyond the material plane, reaching toward the dominion of the elements, the control of time, or even the very fabric of fate itself. Where once they sought to rule the shifting sands, now they seek to rule entire worlds. An ancient blue dragon is a legend unto itself, a name whispered in fear by kings and warlords alike. They do not act impulsively. Their schemes unfold across centuries, their influence stretching across continents. The rumor of their presence is enough to make lesser rulers reconsider their ambitions, knowing that to draw the attention of such a being is to invite their own downfall. Their lairs, now ostentatious fortresses of absolute power, are built not for function, but for spectacle. thrones carved from obsidian, towers lined with sapphires, treasure hoards overflowing with the wealth of fallen civilizations. To enter such a place is to stand in the eye of the storm itself, where every step is measured, every breath monitored, and every movement judged by the dragon who watches from the shadows. At this stage, their intelligence rivals that of the gods themselves. Their magic is beyond mortal comprehension, their lightning breath capable of leveling entire cities in a single blast. Few can stand against them, and fewer still dare to try. Only the most powerful of beings, ancient metallic dragons, quasi-deities, entire civilizations, can hope to challenge them. For an ancient blue dragon, there is only one law: supremacy, and those who fail to acknowledge it will be swept away like dust before the storm. Its rivals are many, but none are despised as deeply as the frivolous brass dragons, whose carefree nature and incessant chatter are an affront to the blue dragon's sovereign dignity. The brass drakes, ever restless and talkative, flee from battles they deem unnecessary, a trait that blue dragons view as the ultimate cowardice. To them, there is no greater insult than an enemy who refuses to stand and fight, no greater frustration than an adversary who will not acknowledge their superiority. Yet, beyond their enmity with their metallic kin, blue dragons guard their realms jealously against all who would trespass. Sphinxes, dragones, and any creature foolish enough to test their might. The sands of their domain are sacred, their skies an extension of their reign. And should an intruder dare to challenge them, the storm does not hesitate. It strikes without mercy and without remorse. A blue dragon does not rush into combat. It engineers the conditions of its victory. It is a predator of patience, a ruler who understands that true power lies not in reckless strength, but in the ability to control the battlefield before the first blow is struck. From the skies, it watches, unseen, waiting for the perfect moment to descend. From beneath the sands, it lies in ambush, its great horn jutting forth like a jagged ruin, a lure for the unwary. And when the time is right, when its prey is within reach, when fear and exhaustion have set in, it rises, an avalanche of sand and lightning, shattering the stillness with the fury of the storm. But brute force alone is never enough. Older blue dragons wield their environment as an extension of their will. The very land listens to their commands against their enemies. Sinkholes swallow the foolish, dust devils blind the unwary, and rolling thunder heralds the death yet to come. With magic, they shape the battlefield before the fight begins, ensuring that every step their enemy takes leads only toward ruin. Against intelligent prey, they are even more devious. Through mimicry and ventriloquism, they twist the minds of their foes, sowing discord, luring prey into isolated traps, or splitting groups apart before the slaughter begins. When facing a blue dragon, it is to fight, to be hunted, manipulated, and ultimately outplayed by a force that has already foreseen every move. Where lesser creatures fight with passion, a blue dragon fights with purpose. It does not engage in reckless brawls, nor does it entertain the notion of a fair fight. Every battle is a war of attrition, drawn out over hours or even days, exhausting its foes through relentless strikes before closing in for the final, inevitable execution. From above, it rains lightning upon its prey, harrying them with strikes that sap their strength, whittling them down before swooping in with claw and fang. If forced into direct confrontation, it fights like a warlord, never exposing weakness, always keeping an avenue of control. And should an enemy prove resistant, it vanishes once more, regrouping, waiting, allowing its foes to wither beneath the weight of fatigue and dread before striking once more. Only in the direst of circumstances will a blue dragon retreat, and even then, it does so with calculated precision. To flee without purpose is to admit defeat, and a blue dragon does not suffer the stain of cowardice lightly. Should it ever be forced to withdraw, it will not be for long. It will return, stronger, wiser, and with a vengeance more terrible than the storm itself. For in the end, a battle is not truly won until all who stood against the blue dragon lie in ruin, their bodies shattered, their will broken, and their lands reduced to dust beneath the shadow of the storm. The battle is over before it truly begins. Where once the defiant banners of the Zentarim stood, now there is only ruin. The air, thick with the scent of scorched earth and ozone, hums with the last echoes of the storm's wrath. The fortress, once a bastion of shadows and whispered schemes, lies in smouldering ruin beneath the dragon's gaze. The Ancient One watches from its perch, wings unfurled like the remnants of a passing tempest. Below, its warriors move through the wreckage, sifting through the ashes of what was once defiance. The conquered kneel, some in terror, others in reluctant reverence. Those who resist meet only the silence of the finality of the storm's judgment. A single moment stretches across the broken city, heavy with inevitability, and then the dragon speaks. Its voice is not a roar, not a snarl, but a decree absolute, undeniable, the will of the storm made audible. You join as an extension of order made manifest, an empire that will take root for a millennia. With a final beat of its mighty wings, the Stormlord ascends, vanishing into the heavens, leaving only ruin and memory in its wake. For those who survive, there is no doubt. The storm does not rage without purpose. It does not rise without cause. An empire has begun.